Welcome back, everyone.
Hey, guys.
Hey, so Avengers Infinity War is coming up very, very soon. And we realized that, hey, we never did catch reviews for like the second half of Phase 3.
Yeah.
So I figured we better get on that.
Yeah, it turns out, sitting on your couch and talking about movies you just saw and then putting that on the internet is a fair amount of work.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of respect for, even people who do this kind of thing regularly and release lots and lots of videos every week.
That leaves Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, and Black Panther to discuss. So we are going to get into that and get those knocked out and give our thoughts on them. So.
Yeah, we went through the ritual rewatch of watch a movie every week in the new year in the MCU, and then you'll be caught up in time for Infinity War. So we did it in a slightly different order, tried to capture, what's the actual chronological sequence of events rather than the release date order. We're going over all three of these.
In the order they came out. So that goes into Spider-Man Homecoming. So now Marvel really gets to do a Spider-Man movie instead of Sony trying to do their version of it.
Yeah, so the Raimi movies still hold up for the most part except for Spider-Man 3. I know that's been getting re-examination by a lot of people. But in my opinion, I think it's still the least good one. However, once the Mark Webb movies take over, it's becoming more and more clear that Sony was clutching on to the Spider-Man movie rights purely out of just naked greed, rather than trying to make good movies. And it's like, we really want Spider-Man to come home and actually hang out with the other Avengers and the other Marvel heroes, just like he does in the comics, rather than stay off in his own corner. And, just so you guys can keep Marvel from selling action figures.
The most valuable creative decision was not showing or referencing the origin.
So nice.
There's no direct mention of Uncle Ben, no rehashing of the power and responsibility speech, although it is kind of a theme. But it's like a clear understanding that all of that did happen. But instead of dwelling on it, let's just get to the real story, which is what happens next. And in this case, what happens next is spinning directly out of the events of Civil War, where Iron Man kind of recruited Peter and gave him a new Spidey suit, and now Spidey gets to sort of get back into his friendly neighborhood roots while hoping to make it to the big times.
Yeah, and while all that's happening, we have our villain story, which picks up from starting in the aftermath of the first Avengers movie with the Chitauri invasion. So it's like, somebody's got to clean all that stuff up. And I like this how, even though this is still very much a Spider-Man story, but, just put as many references to the Avengers and the larger Marvel Universe as you like, and you'd actually get a pretty good story out of it. And especially due to the MCU, we get a pretty good examination of, what happens after something huge like the Chitauri invasion happens, because most movies, when they do something like that levels the entire city, the movie just kind of ends. Yeah. Or else you have the Transformers movies where they just kind of act like it didn't happen and they just do it over again every time.
Yeah.
In like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and on the Netflix shows, and then in movies like this, we get to see, how does this actually affect people? And, what happens next? Which leads to some interesting stories, and some of those interesting stories end up generating more stories and more villains.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is great.
Watching the Amazing films, and Spider-Man 3 for that matter, it's clear that Sony just couldn't let the origin go, and it really helped the franchise to disappear up its own butt.
Yeah.
Sony kept trying to make the defining Spider-Man movie.
Yeah.
Rather than just a Spider-Man movie. And I think that while a lot of the other Marvel heroes can sort of have a story that is removed and stands apart from the saga of the Avengers, with Spider-Man, that story's been told. So now let's do a story that references the Avengers and their existence throughout the story and really spins off from it.
Yeah, it's evident that they looked over the previous Spider-Man movies and were like, what can we do differently? What have these movies done that we cannot do? Or what have they not done that we can do? And it's like, we're not going to do an origin movie. And although it's not an origin movie, it is very much of Peter. He's still new at this. He's still learning the ropes. He's really trying. But just like always, nothing ever seems to work out for him. In this case, it's a lot of trying to, stop the bad guys with their advanced alien weapons, and generally ends up causing even more damage in the process.
Yeah. Another great decision was to just diversify the fuck out of the cast. For a lot of Peter scenes, he's practically the only white guy on screen.
Through both sets of movies before, we've seen two different takes on Peter's classic supporting cast. We've seen two different versions of Gwen. We've seen two different versions of Harry. We've seen two different versions of Flash. We almost saw two different versions of MJ, but they cut her for time.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, we need to add a little more variety. So they focus on, well, it's still in the spirit. A lot of the specifics of Peter's classmates are almost unrecognizable from the original 60s comics. But that's okay, because like this is what, when you go to a high school, especially in New York, this is what it looks like now.
It feels like a real modern high school, not just like a Hollywood screenwriter's idea of what a high school looked like maybe 20 years ago.
But, or 30 years ago, John Hughes. Yeah,
exactly. That's kind of the vibe that they were going for as far as the tone.
Oh, yeah.
But also, having this feel like a high school that would exist today, also in a world where the Avengers exist.
Yeah, so like, who do we got in our sporting guest? We have another new version of Flash, who is not a kind of muscle-headed jock, but rather, what's the actor's name?
Tony Revolori.
Tony Revolori, the kid from the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yeah.
And he is Flash, but he's sort of he's on the math team with Peter, but he's, has it out for Peter, and he's more of kind of a smart tech bully, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I loved it, but look, if we tried to do another version of Musclehead Flash again, I'm not sure I would have enjoyed that much either.
I want to see a one-on-one with Joe Manganiello and Tony, where they discuss, among other actor things, the implications of them both having played the same character.
Yeah, and the dude from Amazing Spider-Man doesn't get to come?
Well, he kind of played the same Flash that Joe played.
Yeah, pretty much. I still feel like he should get to come.
Oh, yeah.
We also have Zendaya in her film debut. Disney Channel graduate, playing a character named Michelle, who just kind of hovers around the movie, being all hipster, and
she's a lot of fun though.
Yeah, she's sort of a better version of Kat Dennings' character from Thor.
Yeah.
So we got Laura Harrier as this movie's version of Liz Allen.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about diversifying the cast.
Yeah.
Liz Allen is usually blonde. On Spectacular Spider-Man, she was Mexican. Peter goes through a couple girls in the comics before he arrives at the legendary love triangle of himself, MJ, and Gwen.
Yeah.
So like that. But we have a lot of other of his classmates off the sides. If you go through the galleries, there's one Asian girl on the math team who's supposed to be Cindy, who is Silk from the comics, supposed to be. I don't imagine we're going to get to see that movie anytime soon, but wouldn't that be great, right?
As a fanboy's gripe about forced diversity, taking characters who are white in the comics and making them not white here.
Yeah, you ever start to wonder...
it's some horrible affront to the vision of the original creators.
You ever start to wonder why so many of those characters are white to begin with?
Yeah. We're talking about the original X-Men, the founding Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and a lot of the top solo heroes like Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and Daredevil and the Punisher,
who are still white.
Oh yeah.
In the MCU.
And that's just for Marvel. Meanwhile, you walk down the street or peek on a classroom in New York, and what do you see? You see a population that looks more like they do in this movie.
Yeah.
His classmates are black and Latino and Hawaiian and mixed and genderqueer and immigrants, because that's the world.
Yeah.
And the movie treats it as normal. When Stan and Steve Ditko created Spider-Man, they wanted to make him feel like a real life person who gets powers.
Yeah.
So surround him in a world that looks like real life.
Yeah.
That's honoring the vision of the original creators.
Yeah.
And fanboys are, that demanding these movies be realistic always seem to get bent out of shape when that means making it inclusive.
Yeah.
Like they're just trying to appease those damn dirty SJWs.
Yeah. I love that term because it has the word justice and warrior in it.
Yeah.
Another rather bold new addition to Peter's supporting cast is the character of Ned Leeds. Now, Ned is not a classmate of Peter's in the comics. He's a co-worker at the Daily Bugle.
Yeah, there's no Daily Bugle on this either, which I'm a little surprised they got away with that.
Yeah. Gives him more of that John Hughes vibe, Gives him more of he's still a kid just going to science class, and he's not dividing that and crime fighting with, holding down a part-time job yet. Presumably we'll get to that later. Maybe. Yeah. We'll see. But now Ned is his kind of sidekick. He finds out his identity within the first act, and so now he's got somebody to talk to, which he generally doesn't have in the comics or in most versions. He just kind of lets the stress of being Spider-Man, just fester inside of him without telling anybody.
Yeah.
But now he has somebody to talk to and, insistently ask him questions about his powers and, can you summon an army of ants? Can you summon an army of spiders?
Yeah.
Do you lay eggs?
That was a nice way of getting certain exposition things out of the way.
I guess.
But there were times where it's like, this is not a good friendship.
Mm-hmm.
It does evolve over the course of the film, especially.
But I mean, they're teenagers. They're still they're still
trying
learning
to use Spider-Man to improve their social lives, which is another thing that Peter would do in the comics.
Tried to do in the comics,
yeah. That's right, and it didn't really work out.
Big twist that leads us into the third act.
Yeah.
Peter finally gets Liz to go with him to Homecoming. That's why it's called Spider-Man Homecoming. Goes to pick her up, goes to her house, and who opens the door but the Vulture, Michael Keaton. It's like, wait, what? It takes a second to process what just happened. He's like, wait, does he know? Oh, that's her dad.
Yeah.
Oh, it's very akin to Peter realizing that his best friend's dad is a Green Goblin, or realizing that his aunt is dating Dr. Octopus. Yeah,
so,
it's very.
It's not specifically happening in the comics, but it's very much in the spirit.
Oh yeah,
of the comics. Vintage Lee and Ditko.
Mm-hmm. On an obsessive trivia note, a couple more of Peter's classmates that show off the sides are Betty Brant and the other guy, I forget his name, who's reading the news. They're played by Angourie Rice,
who is the girl in The Nice Guys.
Yeah, and Jorge Lindenberg Jr., who was in Love, Simon. And I wish that had been Tandy and Tyrone, Cloak and Dagger. Just kind of set that up, even though it was still like a year away by the time this movie came out. But it would have been nice if that was part of it, because I think like even in the Ultimate Comics, Tandy and Tyrone were classmates of Peter. Yeah. So that would have been cool. But also there's the fact that Betty is now a classmate of Peter's, which she never was before. And also she looks more like Gwen Stacy. And she's played by Angourie Rice, who's on the rise. She could totally play Gwen Stacy.
Oh, yeah.
So there's some odd choices like that kind of become distracting if you're like really into the comics like we are.
Yeah.
But for a general audience, it's not a big deal.
As far as the villain, not only do we have the Vulture, we also have like versions of Shocker and the Tinkerer in there, kind of on his little group there.
Yeah, see, I love that. That's how you should be doing. You know, if you want to have multiple villains, especially multiple villains in your Spider-Man movie, like don't do it like Spider-Man 3, where everyone has to be the main villain, and you have to like frantically try to carve out enough screen time and enough contrivances to tell a bunch of full stories. Just have one main villain and a few lackeys.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of B-level Spider-Man villains.
Yeah.
In the Rogues Gallery, so just let them come by and hang out.
Yeah.
But yeah, with each new Spider-Man movie, they try to get somebody new on screen that they haven't used yet. The only big one they've really reused is Harry as the Goblin.
Yeah.
But for the most part, every new one has a new villain.
Yeah, exactly. But
so here we have the Vulture, who's kind of the next one down. Vulture was only the second or third bad guy that Spider-Man ever fought in the comics.
Yeah, but it's taking this long to get him on screen. But there's another bad guy that nobody was expecting to be one of the good ones.
Yeah.
As far as, capturing him on film and giving him like a really cool motivation and a really great dynamic with Peter that didn't tie into the origin anyway. But it's like, this is about to hear.
But it's still, but like most villains, it's still with the 11th hour twist. It turns out, this guy does have a personal connection to Peter. Yeah, as a lot of them do. But it's done in a very cool way that's true to the spirit of it.
Oh yeah.
When it happens, just such great performance. Like you can feel Peter's panic and freaking out as he's just sitting there, just going.
Yeah. Great kind of understated work from Holland there.
Yeah, and also there's no music in that part of the movie up until the dad talk.
Yeah.
Which leads us into the final fight at the end.
It's a line about, of course, Peter's got to stop him because, selling advanced weapons is wrong. To which he points out, how you think your buddy Stark made his fortune. It's like,
true, but Stark figured out that was wrong, too.
Yeah, and he, stopped doing that shit.
So, for whatever that's worth. Not to say that he's wrong. I mean, that's part of what makes him such a good villain is that he makes so many good points about how, we're just at the bottom and we're just being exploited. While everybody at the top, guys like Stark, get to just take advantage of everyone. Yeah, so you can see why, especially with the prologue of the movie setting the whole thing up, why he'd be so bitter about it. But the casting of Michael Keaton was a pretty good stroke of genius as far as that, because, in the comics, Vulture is kind of this, hunched over old guy with, he looks like a human vulture. He's got a long neck and, he's going bald. He's got kind of a long beak nose. And he, wears the pajama outfit with the ruffled collar. And they cast Michael Keaton, who's got geek cred because he's, the OG Batman from the Tim Burton movies. So sort of he's having a bit of a resurgence in his silver-haired years here. Yeah. Now playing a bad guy, and now playing another guy, with a wing motif. The Vulture suit, instead of being, a pair of pajamas with wings, is this sort of high-tech suit, but not quite Iron Man because it doesn't have access to that kind of awesome tech. Yeah. It's more of a construction crew working man's version of an Iron Man suit
Yeah.
with, a winged rig that's like, 40 or 50 feet wide.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know how he would do in a fight against the real Iron Man. They never actually meet up. Because it's not about Vulture versus Iron Man, it's about Vulture versus Spider-Man in the end. They also give him the bomber jacket with, the furry collar as an homage to his comic look as well.
Yeah.
I like that touch. We got Peter, the cover is that he's got the Stark internship, which it turns out is the Spidey suit, and a sort of passive mentorship from Tony. Even though, as we rejoin him after the events of Civil War, we find that he hasn't really met up with Tony or with Hogan since then.
He's been largely ignored by Tony and Happy. Like, Happy, like, a lot of bad stuff could have been avoided if Happy wasn't such a, thickety thick neck from Thick Town Thickania.
Yeah, so basically, Hogan has the job of actually, looking after Peter and screening his calls, but Hogan doesn't want to do it because he feels like he's babysitting, apparently. And I'm like, look, guys, Hogan, if you don't want to take Peter's calls, just kick that job to one of your security team. You're the head of security. You don't need Stark's permission to do this.
Yeah.
After texting Hogan incessantly for a while, he suddenly gets a call from somebody saying, like, hi, I'm Beth Cabe, and I'm going to be taking your calls and passing them on to Hogan if they're actually relevant. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Problem solved. Then there's no movie. There's no conflict at all. Peter, he makes a lot of mistakes in this movie, causes a lot of collateral damage, obviously, and, there's also the fact that he's got the new high-tech suit, which it turns out there's even more features that he gets to unlock if he has enough XP, so, he's not down for that, so he just has Ned, who knows computers, just unlock it for him, and so we get the theme of...
Ned is the one who's being the more reasonable one, trying to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
Rather than I'm buzzing in his ear trying to give him bad ideas. So kind of switched places there.
He has access to a ton of new features on this high-tech suit, some of which you probably shouldn't be giving to a teenage kid, like instant kill.
Yeah.
He's even got his own onboard AI in the form of Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Which is great because she's married to Paul Bettany. Over the course of the film, he's kind of becoming too reliant on the tech in the suit and all these new features instead of relying on himself and using his brain.
So naturally, the other thing to do is to take the suit away and have him save the day with his old duds.
Because that's what heroes do.
Yeah, that'll teach him. The great thing about Toombs there that there's no point where he has this gear shift into this cackling bad guy. He stays pretty consistent. Throughout. There's not like in the first Iron Man where Obadiah has to kind of completely snap and get into the suit and go on a rampage. Toombs never specifically wants to kill Peter. Yeah. In fact, at the end, it's very important because he knows that it's Peter, but he doesn't want to tell because of Liz. But at the end of the day, he never... he just wants the loot. Yeah. And Peter's just in the way. Yeah. And so that's what leads to the action. Yeah. So I appreciated that. But so as we're going to see it a lot in Phase 3... everybody complains about how Marvel has a villain problem, how the villains just aren't that interesting except for Loki. And so Phase 3 has been getting a lot of mileage out of taking lesser-known villains, like the Vulture, and turning them into something really interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So I appreciate that. So Spider-Man Homecoming was really good. Yeah, so looking forward to maybe more of that in Phase 4. We have no idea what is coming after Infinity War. It's just
As far as we know, everyone dies in Infinity War, so we'll see.
All right, so we'll come back for Thor Ragnarok. See you next time. Hey everyone, hope you enjoyed that video. If you do, make sure to like, comment, and favorite. Click on my shield to subscribe for more new videos. Make sure you head on over to my official website, evilcloneproduction.com, for even more exclusive content. How many more of these?